Welcome back, everybody. We are back with another queued up episode for League of Legends. Split 3 has begun. We haven't been here since EWC ended, but we're ready to get back and tell you all what has been happening in the world of League of Legends. My name is Chris. Joined with me is Justin, Eli, and Davis. How are y'all doing today?
Really good. Excited to be on the show, talk some League. There's been some very interesting matches all around the world.
Yeah, the League action has not slowed down, to say the least. I mean, we finished MSI and EWC and is right back to action. So we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, yep, that is exactly correct. But let's go ahead and get started into it. So we are, of course, going to have our sections today. We're going to have around the league. We're going to talk about some good old gaming from across the league. We're going to have some fantasy build-ups that we've done from some LTA teams. So we'll tell you who our team of the week is, as well as some clutch or kick, everyone's favorite, and then some news segments from around the league also to end off. But let's go ahead and get jumped into it. We're going to start off with a little bit of a sadder topic. Jensen has decided to retire. The former mid laner has said that he is done with League of Legends for now competitively. Hopefully he still makes some content, but you know, former SK Gaming into Cloud9, Dignitas across LTA, has been in LCS for a long time, and he has decided to, you know, throw up the bag for the moment. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Any favorable moments or memorable moments from him?
Yeah, Jensen's one of my favorite players. I think thinking back to Worlds, I struggle to remember the year, but with C9, when they made it to the quarterfinals and beat Afrika, that was one of the moments that really sold me on how awesome League could be. It did not really live back up to those expectations in the following years. I was hoping that would be like a turning point. But seeing him there, seeing him at MSI with Liquid as well, Jensen's done so much throughout the league. Also, such a funny history, you know, with Incarnation and getting banned for DDoS threats and stuff back early in his career. One of the GOATs for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any player that has been to Worlds 8 times in a row, I mean, that's quite a legacy of a career. So I don't know how many players can say the same. Obviously, you know, Faker's on that list, a handful of others, but he's one of the few that were able to be that consistent.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Jensen. I was always a TSM fan, so I really, you know, back whenever they were playing, I didn't really like him that much, but I have huge respect for the guy. I mean, he was a tremendous player, tremendous mid laner for the NA scene, and just, it is sad to see him go, but it just shows like how successful this scene's been and how old it's really getting, and so players like that are just going to have to go.
And that era from when he was playing against Bjergsen was, I think, some of the best level of like mid lane that we've ever seen in NA. Like Bjergsen legitimately looked like one of the best players in the world, and Jensen was giving him a run for his money in all of the just local LCS matches. So
yeah.
Definitely VC, cool what he does in the future. Hopefully he does a little bit more League of Legends content, but for now he can finally take a well-deserved rest, and we thank him for everything that he's done, especially for the NA scene itself. But let's go ahead and jump into some of our favorite games of the week. J-Dog, let us know about yours.
Well, so it's actually still going on right now as we record this, but it's the Los Ratones versus Nord, the NLC semifinals. So if you don't know what NLC is, it's basically a European feeder league about 2 tiers down. The winner from NLC will get to go into the ERLs to play for basically the tier 2 championship of European League. But it's a big matchup. Los Ratones versus Nord is always the real match to watch in the NLC. You've got super famous, very well-known players from LR, but then on Nord side, you've got Yankos, Visit Shachi, and Treats in the support role. So it's going really good. Game's 1-1 right now. Game 3, I think, is actually just getting underway.
Yeah, game 1, we got to watch a little bit before we jumped in the studio, but it was insane. They were down 0 kills to 8 kills, Los Ratones. And then Bowson's Law always comes through. He gets no kills, is 0-5, but somehow has a gold lead because he's destroying towers, collecting objective bounties. He was playing insane, but Velia also clutched up with the Wukong to steal the Otacon in the pit, and also got a kill afterwards somehow with like a quarter of his HP bar. Classic Los Ratones. They come way back from down heavily in kills, and then somehow snowball a victory very quickly.
I just want to add that into Game 3 here, they had decided to pick Kog'Maw and Zilean as their 4-5 picks.
Wow,
The bot lane. It looks like, or actually no, so it will be Braum in the bot lane, Bazillion in
Bazillion
mid.
mid.
So, but they do have the Kog'Maw, so they're switching it up a little bit there versus a Smolder. So it should be a little interesting going into this last match.
I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of that. Hopefully time goes in their favor. I am definitely rooting for the Rats here, but Nemesis is such an important part of this team, and like putting out consistent damage and also consistent CC. Like Syndra is the pick we see him play all the time and he's always ripping off some insane stuns. I don't know how consistent he'll be with Zillion. I've got a lot of faith in his flexibility, but it's a pretty risky pick in Game 3.
Yeah, we saw the Zillion struggle in the FlyQuest Game 5 at MSI, but my thought is like maybe the very best players are good at playing against Zillion because they just wait out the ult. Like they're just not going to kill somebody if they have a Zillion ult on them. But maybe a lower seeded team might still kill that player. You know, they won't be as good to like stop themselves in those moments. I don't know.
I think I really like that bot lane. I was just thinking about it. I kind of like the Braum with Kog'Maw. I mean, you can activate the W, have the extra range, maybe proc that passive a little bit easier. I've been playing Braum when I play support, and I think he's so strong right now. He's been being played a lot in the pro scene, too.
Hey, I mean, it's also pretty appropriate. Do you remember the YouTube video that I told you that they were referencing on their channel with Crowny and his freaky spinning Kog'Maw?
Yeah.
I was going back and looking at their scrims, and they had some crazy sus Kog'Maw thumbnails and titles going on. It was a little wild.
But watching Los Ratones play, it's always just so crazy to me. Like, actually, I was walking through the office earlier, and I didn't realize that their game was on TV. And I saw it bounce like he was proxying a wave, and he like just dives under tower and dies as well. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And then I was like, oh wait, it's Ratones playing. Okay, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, he does that so frequently.
Like, I thought it was just like a normal, just like LCS game or like LTA game or something on the TV, and I walked by and I saw him dive the tower and die. I was like, what the heck did I just watch? And I was like, okay.
I mean, I was so confused watching it. Like I said, when I watched Baus, they're even. The top laners are even in CS. He's 0-5, has 1 assist, I guess, but he has a gold lead. Like how? Like the guy just knows how to manipulate the game state, and it's almost like the beginning of the game doesn't matter if you know how to like slowly build into their strategy.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think it's a lot of the scaling runes that he picks. That doesn't really show itself in the gold graph, but it kind of helps him with their super scaling mindset. The fact that you can really ease into from a very losing position. I mean, in both of these games, we saw Nord getting a huge lead early on, and then the Rats trying to kind of fight back. So it does fit with their MO.
Yeah, they are trying to get an early invade for Pantheon on the blue side. So we'll have to see how that game plays out in the end. Maybe we can get an update before the end of the show to see who ends up taking that wing.
Maybe we make our blind predictions here. Yeah. Who do we got?
All right, let's go ahead and make some.
I mean, obviously Chris is the only one who's been able to see the full draft. We just know that one team has a Zillion and a Kog'Maw. So I'm actually going to predict Nord. I don't like the draft. I think it's going to bite him. They're going to lose.
I got to go Los Ratones. I don't care what the draft is, what the game state is. These guys find out ways to win every single time. So
I'll ride Nord with you, too. I think the Zillion mid is questionable, and mid laners are like pretty prominent right now. That's where you see a lot of your damage coming from. So hopefully the solo laner, hopefully he can survive, but we'll see.
All right, well, you heard the predictions here. We'll see before this show ends who gets it. But Eli, let's go ahead and jump into yours here.
Yeah, so this was one of the more exciting matches that we had in, honestly, the beginning of LTA. This is one of the biggest upsets, and that's Lyon versus Team Liquid. Lyon somehow pulls out the dub, and with a player that's not even normally on their roster. There was some trash talk on Twitter ahead of time, by the way. This is Audieland saying, I think Team Liquid is the easiest team. And then, of course, the clapback comes through. And APA says, I mean, it'll probably just be an easy match. Like, he ended up regretting those words because they lost 2-1. Obviously, they won game 2, but I was just so impressed by Surdy. Like we said, he's dropped by Dignitas, decides to be a content creator for them. I guess just wasn't really comfortable on that lineup, didn't really feel like he could be himself. But now he, in the winner's interview, was talking about, you know, how much more comfortable he feels to just be himself and play his best League of Legends, and we saw that in this series.
Yeah, this one was really interesting because we know that like Varus is a really big ban out of a lot of the Eastern teams, so it's left up a lot in the Western games. Hinna went 8-1 on the Varus, and it was playing the on-hit Varus, not the lethality Varus that we see. But another big one that you're talking about, Surdy versus Impact. Impact went 0-8 on the Gragas.
Yeah, absolutely. The first game, he was just unimpactful at all. You could see later in the game, he was just trying to, unimpactful. No pun
supposed to play it off like you meant to.
Yeah, no pun intended there. But just he couldn't find anything. I mean, he was trying to split push a little bit and try to find some flank angles with the Gragas, try to get some usefulness out of his ult. But he just really couldn't find anything the entire game, and just him and the APA just were non-existent for me this whole series.
I gotta say, the draft synergy on the side of Lyon was insane this game. First of all, Saint hit his first 4 Azir ults in perfect fashion that all led to multiple kills. We also saw the Skarner and Rel combining just CC chains, and then Renekton running in and getting an AoE stun as well. It was beautiful to watch. I mean, the team fighting was incredible. Hinna I felt like Hina was just served all these kills on a silver platter, gets massive, and ends up winning this. Honestly, a complete blowout in game number 1.
I do agree with you, Eli. I think the draft advantage is pretty severe there. You got 2 very consistent carries in the Varus and the Azir, and then 3 very easy to affect the game on tanky characters around it. That gives you kind of confidence, I think, in the game where it's like, if we just scale and we stay somewhat relatively even, our job's going to be so much easier than the team that's trying to pull off Talia and Vi combos and Impact having the most terrible Gragas performance we've seen. I mean, this is so unlike him. I had him on my fantasy lineup, and he really let me down there. Because it's just such a dagger, because Impact is the picture of consistency when you look at his entire career, especially with how long it is. He stays so solid, always delivers, except for this game. And when he doesn't, it comes back to bite him.
I just want to say that APA has been really underwhelming since the start of Split 3. 4-10 in the entire series. And then you feel bad for Jan because he's literally been trying his best. 18-8 in a series that they lost. He has probably one of the best Yunara games that we had seen up till that point. Of course, we've gotten pentakills, and then Ruler, of course, popping off on it today versus T1. But so when you think about it, a week ago, we weren't seeing her as much kind of up and coming, but not doing as well. Then he pulls out a game, the only game that they win, ends up going, 12-2 on this. And this is the reason why they won. Everyone else, very low impact. Yuji had an okay game, but it was really just him popping off on this new hero or champion that was able to give him the win. But he's been consistent, but the rest of his team seems to be falling off.
Yeah, and I think it hurts Yuji the most because him as a rookie jungler and not his solo laners have been letting him down so much. There's just no pressure really around the map for them besides the bot lane. And then if they aren't super ahead like he was on Yunara, there's just no chance for them to really win. Especially with game 1 with Renekton getting first blood and being so ahead, it was just it was kind of just cooked from there. The duo in the bot lane, they can't do enough. He's not healthy enough to really stay sustained in fights where you have a top laner who's honestly feeding and you have a mid laner who can't really do anything either.
Yeah, let's pull up the graphics for games 2 and 3. I mean, we just got done talking about game 2 pretty heavily, but yeah, the 12-2, 9 assists as well for Yun. I mean, he was, let's be honest, the only reason they won this game at all. There was a lot of big plays from Surdy and Audi once again this game, but it just wasn't enough to overcome Yun. But then you go into game 3, and honestly, this was kind of a snooze for the first 10 minutes, and then there's a Liquid's vaguely ahead in objectives. They're setting up for a second drag. They got great river control, and then Surdy just comes barreling down with the Scion ult, catches 2 people. They get deleted from the map, and then it's a free dragon for Lyon, and they just kind of rode that to victory. I mean, I gotta point out that Poppy was making some crazy ults as well, just deleting the most important member of the fight or sending them halfway back to their base. This was just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Hina just popping off, using that, front line to pop off on the Jinx, which is, of course, what you want. They did a really good job, and I mean, this is a Lyon. Their spot, is safe. They are that LTA, the Latin America representative for LTA North, so of course they don't have to fight for their spot at the end of the year unless Lyon decides to leave. But when you think about it, they still want to do well. They want to have the best placement as possible, try to make the run for Worlds as everyone is. So far, this is a way for them to do that. But at the end of the day, one thing we didn't talk about is Zumato. Zumato is still technically the starting mid laner, so he has, went on and said that, yes, I know that I've done well, but he's still the starting top laner, but I will still do what I can to maybe prove myself to either be that starting top laner or make a way for another team to maybe pick me up, later on.
I think maybe the last thing to think about, and I don't know if anybody's really even considered this with Lyon, I wonder if Furia succeeding so well at MSI was motivating for them as well. Being that LTA South representative up here, when we had no expectations, we thought that the Southern teams were just going to go get bodied at international competition, but seeing them actually be competitive, maybe that lit a fire oh my man, if back home they're still able to compete, now if we have a chance to play against better teams, there's more responsibility on us. So that could be playing into it as well.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say about it is just Surdy in the interview afterwards was super gracious, but I also felt really happy for him that he felt like he redeemed himself because he never really had any good moments on Dignitas, and it was almost like he was just going to quietly fade into content creation. But then he gets an opportunity like this, and he proves hey, I can actually play awesome. So shout out to Surdy. He played his mind out.
To be fair, it is hard to have good showings on Dignitas. And its shape
Dignitas
before.
first.
But we will go ahead and move on a little bit. Mine will be T1 versus HLE. They faced off last week. This was kind of like a big, starting point. We saw T1 take down Gen G, but could they continue that success onto HLE afterwards? And for me, T1 being able to beat both of the top teams in the LCK right now is just proving their trajectory forward. As I did say a little bit earlier, they did lose to Gen G this morning, but again, they might be able to fight for that second place spot if they are able to continuously beat HLE as well as some of the other teams in that Legends group. Right now, they just look to be on fire. The game one that they had, we'll go ahead and pull that up. It didn't seem like they could miss any skill shots at all, especially Gumayushi on that Jhin. We know he's an amazing Jhin player. He loves the Jhin, but he was hitting everything, regardless if it was the curtain call, if it was trying to get the snare off. He just popped off, but this was probably my favorite Faker game on Galio of this year.
Yeah, Faker was popping off crazily in this game one, but also Keria made so many clutch Bard ultimates where he's either saving his teammates or just locking up the enemy team and setting up for some wombo combos. Owner was popping off with a Jarvan as well, which we kind of expect at this point. But overall, like my thoughts on the series, this was finally Gen G's loss after 19 straight series wins. Showed that they're beatable, and T1 has historically taken them to games 3 or 5 almost every time. So this just showed to me that T1's there to compete.
Yeah, in this one, I definitely think a lot of it came down to the bot lane with Viper and Delight. It was really rough for them there for HLE. Zeka, one of my favorite players with a great history. I don't know how well this meta's working for him, man. I love seeing this player on aggressive playmaking champions, and the Orianna in this first game. I think it was Azir in game 2. It's solid, but I just want to see him on Sylas and Akali, the classics for him.
I was honestly obviously T1 won the game, but it was pretty dominant on the scoreboard there. You see, HLE couldn't really do anything around the map, but it was pretty impressive to me how they were able to still stay in the game like they were. I mean, it was a 30-minute game, and it wasn't like it was a huge smacking by any means. I mean, it was kind of slow unfolding till about a 27-minute where there was a bear and that T1 kind of exploded the game open. But I was kind of impressed with them being able to stay in it like they were with literally they have hardly any kills at all. They finished the game with 3 total. So obviously T1, like you said, they're kind of like they always do. As Worlds gets closer, they just keep going up and their trajectory goes up.
I was laughing that it's your favorite Faker Galio play of this year because, for last year, there's a better one.
Right, of course.
The legendary Worlds one.
We take a look at MSI for his Galio just looked completely off par. Like he didn't know exactly what to do. In this game, he knew exactly where to ult. He was getting there on time or beforehand to make the plays. But speaking of Faker, though, we're going to go ahead and jump into game 2 a little bit. He had my favorite play of the year where he actually saved game number 2 onto where Azir's trying to get the, Emperor's Will off and then knock them back. Hits him with the Talia knockback mid-flight from Azir, clip those wings. Zeka unfortunately falls into the remaining members of TSM, gets blown up. They pretty much just push and end the game off of this. And, we always have this Faker, does he still have the mechanics? He's getting older. He still has it. And that saved the game there. But it is probably one of the impressive games for me because usually when we see them fall behind, they usually just fall way behind. And then this is a game they were able to come back and win at the 38-minute mark, despite a scaling Senna, despite a lot of the good Azir ults already coming out of Zeka. And especially with that comp where they were just locked down, Zeus also was completely just destroying them that game number 2.
Yeah, and not just to talk about this game specifically, but one thing that is on my mind, maybe I'm reading between the lines too much, but we didn't really see Faker's best at either EWC or MSI. And then shortly thereafter, we see the contract announcement. So my thought is as a competitor, if you don't know what your future is, maybe his contract was coming up and he's kind of iffy and I don't know, if you're not certain about your future, it's hard to stay focused and locked in the moment, if that makes sense. But now that he's signed, maybe feeling a little bit more secure, we're seeing him more locked in is what I felt like the difference could be since he's gotten home.
That could be a little bit of it. I think it's a lot of a dual contrast though for it. I think we've seen him kind of move with age into that just like leadership and aura role, right? We just need someone consistent. You're talking about impact just being consistent. And I think that's more where we're seeing Faker fall. It's just a consistent player, not exactly the most mechanically gifted, of all. Kind of that role seems to be falling more on Gumayushi now, more than anything, especially going into the split three. But maybe you're right. Maybe it was that contract he knew because it was, I believe, after this game. No, sorry. It was after the Genji game because that was their homestand game that they're having that. Actually, no one knew that that announcement was coming up except for him because he already saw the T1 players walking out and then all of a sudden it pops up and everyone's just silent in awe because Faker's rising and then 4 year and the place just goes crazy. And then this is one of the series after it. Then he's just like, oh, well, now I have 4 more years. So I'm just going to go just completely off rails and just show you, how, why they extended me 4 more years.
I think one aspect, too, that could be working in Faker's favor is just being back in Korea at Lol Park, where he's played so many matches, more than probably anybody else combined. There's really, I don't think, any fatigue concern when you're talking about Faker. I think, though, talking about fatigue, our next match that we're highlighting, we've got AL versus BLG. Coming back off of MSI, we've seen a lot of real serious struggles from AL.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, it's really a question to be asked. Like, they played so many games recently with obviously going to MSI and going to EWC and then now back with their regular season starting back so early. It's kind of like, is it fatigue from how many games they've been playing and the travel that they've been doing in between these games? Or is it just like, they've been playing so many games. That gives a lot of competition back in China and their home region to like see their games, what they're actually trying to do against the best of the best. And maybe they've studied those compositions, studied what they're really trying to do around the map. And maybe that's coming back to bite them now in this new stage.
Yeah, I know one thing people were saying is that, BLG was at these events also, but they didn't last as long. EWC, we have, MSI starting first. We have AL making it to the 3rd place match, which means that they're still going to be there that entire weekend before that grand final sells the day after. And then you have them going to EWC. They have to stay all the way till the end because they're ended up going the distance. And they ended up playing a full 5 games to that distance against Genji. They came back, they had a 1-week break. They had to get right back on the next week where they have to play against BLG, who picks up Shadow, who's doing amazingly well coming into that, giving that team veteran in the jungle, which has boosted their play. That was the BLG that finally has someone aggressive that can play aggressive with them in that, lanes, helps out all the lanes. Granted, BLG did lose the game number 1, but then they pop off game number 2 and 3.
I think that was one of the biggest things too, was like Shadow. Tarzan, for example, like for the last, I would say month and a half, Tarzan's been popping off. He was a huge reason for AL's success at the international events, and he's so aggressive and made so many plays, and Shadow was able to kind of come in and really replicate kind of the same thing for BLG and really get them ahead in a lot of scenarios. So that was really cool to watch.
Yeah, BLG definitely a team that finishing 2nd at Worlds last year. They've made some team changes. They were pretty struggling against Anyone's Legend specifically, and Anyone's Legend before going back home seemed like by far the best team out of this region. But now it seems like everyone's catching up. BLG gets this win. They also lost to Invictus Gaming, Weibo as well. Like the losses are stacking up for Anyone's Legend, where previously they looked kind of untouchable in this region. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a matter of Anyone's Legend falling off or everybody else getting better, but there's definitely something happening.
I think part of it could be also just the format that LPL has, the way that they have their group ascend with all of the top teams slotted in it. It's not like AL is getting any easy matches to just kind of coast through. They're getting hard matches. Their 2 worst losses in this 0-4 streak are against Weibo and IG, which maybe not competing for top LPL, but if you look at their roster, there's a lot of good players on both of those teams. So I think a lot of it can kind of come down to what is going on behind the scenes with the team. If they're we need to win these matches, trying really hard and struggling, then that would be alarming to me. But if they are just acknowledging that they've played so many matches over the last 6 months and that this group ascend, there's no way, even if we completely bomb out, we still make playoffs, we still get a chance to play a team from the Nirvana group, I think is the name for the bottom one, then things could be totally fine. I do think they need a rest period. And if you don't get one schedule-wise, maybe you just make one by having some easy for fun matches.
The one thing that I just saw from this match is like BOG just seemed like they played way better as a team, like together and grouped. It didn't seem like AL was really on the same page. It kind of seemed like they were questioning maybe like one moment in specific I have it written down is game 3. There was a 28-minute Baron play that 2 members of AL were still like near the base, and then 3 members like just decided to engage on the Baron and kind of fight a 3v5, and it was super questionable. Actually ended up losing them the game right there. The series actually just lost it there, and it was like, if you know that 2 of your players aren't there, you can't fight it. Like, you just can't force that fight. You're not going to win it in a 3v5. And so I just thought it was really kind of discombobulated, is my word to say, from AL. But BOG looked really good and played really good, synergized together with their new jungler.
Yep. But speaking of how LPL is playing out for their split number 3, having a lot of matches on the opposite end at LTA North, LTA South, we have a very interesting way that they are playing out split 3 with their pick and plays, where the teams that lose will end up picking the person that they play, to face off in their next matches. How is everyone feeling about this split for LTA North?
I think it's a little bit weird. I'm not a fan of any format that takes longer than 2 sentences to explain is too complicated, in my opinion, because like you got to think about it from the viewer perspective. It's already hard to follow League, if you're trying to keep up with all the different teams and different regions. And then on top of that, you throw in a format which also makes it, you can't really predict when your team is going to play or who they're going to play. And everything's kind of happening last minute. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea in concept, but in practice, I've not been a fan of the way that it works.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. And at the end of the day, for me, it's like I don't think really any change in format is really going to solve the issue that they're trying to solve here with like how the top 4 teams are like kind of clear of the bottom 4 teams. Obviously, we did see Lyon beating Team Liquid, but I think that just kind of comes down to the competition within the teams. It's not really a structure of the league and how the matches are played. I don't think it's that problem. So I don't think any format that you really use is going to fix that.
Yeah, I hate this format. I think it's terrible. It doesn't make much sense. I maybe understand that if you want to try and get some more engagement and fun people picking opponents type deal to get viewers interested, but they didn't come up with it in a good way. I don't like the name, and I'm such a fan of alliteration. Like these guys can tell you how. Like anytime 2 words have the same letter at the beginning, it makes me so happy. But pick and play just doesn't do it. I think it's bad for competition. FlyQuest and C9 are not getting to play each other until the very end of it. I think we need the top teams to be playing against each other more often instead of less often. And also maybe not to get too divulged from League, but the fact that we have Blast Bounty starting up right now in the Counter-Strike scene, I think that's a kind of little niche twist on it that could have worked where you more incentivize it, where if the teams, lower ranked teams beat the higher ranked teams that they're forced to get matchup, they get some sort of big incentive instead of just, oh, you move on, you still also have to play a good team next week.
Yeah.
Not a big fan.
I feel it's too forced on trying to force a hype narrative from the wrong direction. So they're trying to force let's let a lower team pick a higher team than them and then try to beat them. Now we got Lyon versus Liquid, but with the fall off of Liquid that we've been seeing since like split 1, it's not really like, I would say, a big really hype moment outside of Surdy kind of getting vindication for being a top laner, right? Now, on the other hand, we have HLE, BLG beating AL. We have HLE losing to T1 and then T1 beating Gen G, which I feel like are much more hype moments that you're going to see. I feel like even if FlyQuest were to play C9 and it just went a game 3, but it was a really good game 3 between the two, you would have much more hype showing around it. So I feel like they were like trying to figure out ways to make it hype that were unconventional, that we usually see top teams playing each other to start out the split, and it just was a complete 180 because we have the Sky's Toast playing against FlyQuest, which was probably one of the most boring series I've seen so far.
Yeah, it's also created some weird situations, right? Like Lyon, one of the bottom 4 teams, finally gets their win against a top 4 team, but their reward is they're playing FlyQuest next week. Like, it doesn't feel like much of a reward. I will say the one thing I think is kind of cool is, and maybe it's a little bit corny, but I like corny things like this, but taking the banners and like having parts of the banners go to other teams, have a little fun moment in the studio is kind of cool. It's a little bit corny at times, but I don't know. They're trying too hard to cook.
It'd be cool if the system was designed good. Like the theatrics of it is totally fine on screen. I agree with you. It's just when the system is already viewed as a failure, people are treating it like it's a failure, that it just kind of has. And I think the big issue is also comparison. LCK, like you said, LCK and LPL have such a good format that is like happening side by side. Like every morning I'm getting to hear about these insane matchups from those regions, and then we talk about what's going on in LTA, and I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I just won't watch tonight.
Well, the thing, like you said earlier, they want the narrative between the teams to be like, oh, we're picking you like because of some trash talk or something like that. They want that to be the excitement from viewers. But at the end of the day, if viewers want to see the best teams play the best teams, that's what they're really interested in. They don't care that the guy from Disguised Coast called out the guy from Liquid. Like it's like no one really cares. We want to see FlyQuest and C9 play, and so I like formats that, like we're talking about from LCK and the LPL, where you have the best of the best teams playing against each other constantly, improving each other. Iron sharpens iron. And I think that's the format that really would benefit the scene as a whole, a place where we can make our good teams even better and not really separate the groups where it's like, okay, we have a lower team. We're going to try to pick the worst of the best teams or the worst of the teams that we can pick from. No one wants to see that as a viewer.
Yep, absolutely agree. But we're going to go ahead and move on. As you've heard here, let us know your thoughts on the pick and play from split number 3. But we're going to go into Clutch or Kick, and to kick us off today will be J-Dog.
All right. My Clutch or Kick today is that I think that the LEC studio needs to be moved away from Berlin. Get it out. It doesn't have to be actually gone out of Germany. It just can't be downtown in Berlin. I think we just talked a little bit about some of the LTA format and scheduling issues. LEC is having similar ones, mostly because their top teams have been kind of absent from the early stages. But from my understanding and doing a bit of research, the reason that they're doing this is they have too many matches, too many teams, and it's hard to get that production space in there over and over. I think it's such a good problem to have that you have too many teams competing and too many solid teams to want to do it. So got to get your production studio into a place where you can field all these teams. I'd like to see ERLs playing at the same place that the LEC teams play more often and stuff. So let's get it out into the Nordic countryside, put up apartments for the players and stuff, and let them just get out there and grind. I'll hold up clutch, but that's my pitch.
I'll go first. I agree. I think they obviously need to expand. They need some more room in the studio. And just kind of create, they've got infinite money glitch. Like, let's be real. They can afford to get a cooler studio. They should just do it.
I'm going to go ahead and clutch this as well, mostly because of what we saw from the road trip out of what we saw last split. And we've seen so many good different locations that they've had that I think that they could move it to maybe more of a, just any different location that
France
maybe
would be good too.
Yeah, better financially for them. Europe is a lucky place. They can train almost anywhere. And if you just put it into like a spot that may be more convenient for them, that they can host a lot more of these games, maybe we see more fans coming out to support them as well.
Well, so I actually think before Davis gives his, it's actually, I think, going to be a little bit of a downside, because I think they need to move it to the countryside where they can actually have the full amount of time. Maybe you could find a place like that in Paris where you have full freedom, like we have our studio all the time. They don't have that liberty. So you actually you might get less fans, but I think being able to get more games, have more games broadcast and played on LAN is more important than having more fans in the studio. That's not part of my original Clutch or Kick, though.
I will just counter that real quick. It's like, I think that the ticket sales of like attending the event is a big part of their profit margin.
You think?
For these events. Yeah, like the ticket sales in the venue itself.
Interesting.
I mean, look at the sold out arena.
I actually don't even know what the numbers are,
Yeah.
or like what the tickets cost to LEC, but I wonder if you compare that to like the sponsorships for their
Online
broadcasts and
broadcast.
stuff, if it's like comparable.
They make more off of the like in-person event than you would think.
Makes sense.
I don't really know what I think I'm going to clutch this. I was really on the fence. I think I'm going to clutch it as well, so super clutch. My reasoning, though, I think it needs to leave Berlin because of what Chris said about the Madrid event. Like, that event was insane. It was so cool, like, to have everybody there in a new location, new fans that you don't normally see in Berlin, maybe. And I think, in an ideal world, I wish it was a place where you could maybe have multiple studios and you could bounce around. Like you said, if you can't get the space in this play, okay, we're going to have it in Madrid for this week, and all these fans can come here. And then if we can't get it for this date in Madrid, we're going to have it in Berlin. So I wish it was more like bouncing around Europe. Like you said, everything's so close, very easily accessible by train. So I think it does need to get out of Berlin.
It does work. LPL does bounce between different studios in China, and theirs are much longer than the couple of hour train ride that you might take.
I wonder too, like, how hard would it be for them to like borrow Carmine Corp's facility or like have it at that venue? You know what I mean?
I think in the short term, getting it for like a one-off event, it's very, very easy. But when you need it, I don't know how many weeks out of the year they need the LEC studio just for that. And that doesn't even include Valorant stuff on top of that.
That makes sense, yeah.
The same one. I think that's the difficulty. I think you either need to own the studio yourself, which maybe they do, and maybe it's just sharing it with Valorant's too difficult. I'm like half educated on this topic, but I got the super clutch.
You got the super clutch.
Yeah,
That's all that
That
matters.
matters. All right, Davis, hit us.
Yeah, so for mine, it's coming from the backlash with the Wild Rift trailer that was recently released. They used some AI in creating this trailer, and I think that the backlash is actually valid, but I don't think that so I'm going to clutch it. I don't think using AI in like the creation of this stuff is that big of a problem as long as you're using it as like a tool and it's not creating the whole thing. But the reason I'm saying that it's a problem here is because Riot is known to be some of the best cinematic creators in the history of gaming. So I think that they don't need the AI. Like, let's just put a little bit more time, make it really good. And so I want to get AI out of Riot Games because your cinematics are already so good anyway. They kind of set the industry standard, so get it out.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm clutching this right away because that video was so weird. Okay, I was watching it and I'm just trying to decipher because it starts off kind of normal, but then like the later it goes on, it just gets more and more like strange, and you're just trying to decide. And especially with like the K-pop hunters going off recently, like the vibe it started kind of feeling in towards that, or that it was maybe supposed to be like a specific skin line. Like the KDA skin line or something, but it has like random characters in it. It just felt like so off to me that like when someone punched it in to like for the AI to write the tool, it tried to gather like too much and then just like threw out a really strange video.
I'm gonna clutch this. This video was weird as hell, man. Like it's the standard AI issues that you come into where like it's not consistent. Like Jinx's tattoos were different in every scene, which is just another AI issue. But my main issue with this is like, the gaming space as a whole has already seen so many layoffs. So many people are losing their jobs. And we kind of need more people to work in esports. And if you replace the graphic designers and animators with people that just type a prompt into an AI generator, it's awful, I think. And like you said, they literally made Arcane and like the coolest cinematics we've ever seen. The music videos are incredible. Like, was the animation studio too busy working on Arcane to make this video, or like I don't know what the problem is.
All right, my turn. Bad news. It's gonna be a kick for me, and it's gonna be a two-folded kick. On one hand, I think that just in general, the resistance to AI art and stuff is something we're gonna have to get over. I think people are gonna figure out ways to use it and stuff. And two, about the quality of it, I agree, it looked bad. But here's what you guys aren't thinking. You're not mobile gamers. This was for Wild Rift. This is for the borderline. Excuse me if I say it, but okay. Well, then my insult. then you are the smooth brain mobile player. I'm surprised you didn't like it. But they like that AI slob. They're big fans of it. I bet. And also, no publicity is bad publicity.
But they have had such amazing skins put into that game that outdo just the regular, like the PC version of League of Legends, that looking at that, if I'm going to hold them in a comparison, especially for as big as it is in China, China is one of the only regions that actually runs like a league for Wild Rift on a consistent basis, that they should have more work put into it. That's not just some random video. If it was a better done AI video with a actual centralized theme that made sense, then I could get behind it. But since it's not, and it was like a mix up of like almost champion reveal into a K-pop, C-pop, whatever you want to call it, type of mix mash. I don't know what. That's why I'm kicking it.
It's also just like, I don't know. If an animator is the one doing the AI stuff, and maybe they're just using it as a tool to like improve their process, then I'm totally fine with it. But that's not what this looked like, man. It literally just looked like full on slop. Like this, there was one image where like there was supposed to be a spotlight like on the characters, but it was in a random part of the crowd instead. And it was just obvious to me the AI misunderstood the prompt, but they just kept it in the video anyways. Like, I don't know, man. It was bad.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing too, is like whenever you're using the AI, it doesn't truly understand like the whole concept of what's going on. It only understands what you're actually telling it, and so it can misinterpret that. But if you're an actual animator and designer, you've probably seen every single design that's came before this, and so you know the theme, you know the whole broad scheme of what you're trying to do and accomplish. So you don't make mistakes like that, and so it definitely is weird how it works.
Well, on that note, Los Ratones has won their game, so they did take the series 2-1.
Let's go.
So
Davis did get proved wrong, but
for Los Ratones,
Yes,
they have
clutch.
clutched it out. Or sorry, they
What
not
the-
kicker, yeah. They kicked Nord and clutched it out. Sorry, that was where my mind was supposed to go.
Poor
Words
Yankos.
did not work well for me. On that note, though, so I'm going to go ahead and do my clutch or kick. It is going to be the announcement for Worlds is that this year, instead of having a week between quarterfinals and semifinals like they usually do, they are actually having it back to back in the same venue this time in China. So they just announced that they're going to do that. They still will have a week between the semifinals and finals, but I like this. I think this is really good because now it will give fans the ability to go see the quarterfinals and semifinals, which means they may be able to see more games. Plus, they'll be able to see games back to back in the same venue without having to travel too much. I think it's a clutch. I wish they had done that in the U.S. because usually when they do it, they bounce from coast to coast, making it a little bit harder. This time, China is much bigger, so it'd be a little harder to get from Shanghai to Chengdu, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a clutch from them. Go ahead and put it up.
I'll start. Bad news. It's a kick again. This is one of my favorite things about Worlds, the fact that they go city to city to city, like especially when they're in a country that I've never been to. I think it's so awesome that I get to see, the glamour shots of they have with their drones flying over the buildings and showing all the cool things. And I love that it's the progression that Worlds goes through. It feels like you're really like the crucible of the event is going place to place, playing event after event. I like that they're closer, but I am going to miss that multi-city experience. I think it's something that no other real esport really kind of did, not to my knowledge. So I'm going to miss it.
I'm also going to kick it. Sorry, Chris, but for a different reason. I think that you look at this decision and you think it's a massive dub for the viewers. But in my opinion, it's a massive L for the players because, like, if you are playing your heart out in these long series, like, you kind of need a day off. And I think that it's going to improve. I think that just forcing them to continue to play is going to actually degrade the level of play because they're going to be a little bit more tired. And they're also not going to have time to study their opponents before going into it. I think like the downtime was an opportunity for the coaches to like really study the draft and like cook up some like unique draft plays. But now they're just not going to have enough time to do that, or it's going to be rushed. And if the play is worse, then it's, a vicious cycle. Now it's worse to watch as well. So while on the surface it looks like it's good for viewers, I think in the end it'll actually be worse.
So I did kind of think about that until I went to MSI and we got hit with back-to-back bangers this year.
Yeah.
And I think it keeps them warm. So my counterpoint is I actually think it keeps them warm instead of like getting them cold. They don't have time to overthink. They go straight into it with a game plan, which could end up being a positive. So positive thing.
There's always been like rumors in the storyline of how late in the Worlds and MSI tournament teams struggle to find scrim partners because all the good teams are getting eliminated. And what are you going to do? Keep scrimming against a team that just knocked you out of the tournament. So you do get to kind of avoid that a little bit.
I'm going to clutch this too because I really like it. I think that, like Chris said, I think it just builds onto the hype. If you have a week in between matches, you're going to have some people that kind of get a little bit disengaged from it, and maybe people from other regions that just are like, okay, I'm just going to fade away. My team got eliminated in quarterfinals, so I'm not going to care as much now. But having them back to back, you're already engaged. You're in the moment. You're ready for league. You're ready to watch the next game. And so I think it's really hype. I do think that is a great point, though. Like you said, I mean, the coaches are not going to have nearly as much time to prepare. But I think that leads to maybe more chaotic games and maybe things that you would like if you have Gen G go home for a week and they get to study a team, they're going to have the absolute best game plan ever planned out for them. But if you have to play them back to back, it gets a little bit hectic there, and you might see a big upset. So I think it brings a little bit more atmosphere maybe to the event, and we'll see what happens.
Cool. Alrighty, well, let's end with Eli.
All right, so my clutcher kick is that, G2 made a bit of a troll on social media. They've been known to troll. But I think it should have been real. If we can go ahead and pull up the tweets, this was the first one that they announced, and I'll make it short and sweet for you. But basically, they said that Skewmond and Broken Blade were going to role swap, so that Broken Blade was going to go to jungle, Skewmond was going to go top lane, and that they were going to test this out in week 1. The joke is they didn't have a week 1 match, so they're obviously not going to play this for real. And then play the next tweet. Then after week 1 finishes, where they didn't play, the account says, after going undefeated in week 1 and with our matches under 15 minutes, which if they didn't happen, I guess that's true, they've decided to role swap them back. So essentially, it was all just a social media stunt. Obviously, it's a throwback to like when Caps and Perks used to swap roles back in the day. But my clutcher kick is that this should have been real. I would love for this to have been real, for Skewmon to be in the top lane, Broken Blade to go into the jungle. I think that teams should be more willing to role swap with players. It would give them more flexibility in their drafts. And I think it would just make it more interesting to watch a team that have a lot more tricks up their sleeves to throw the other team off and be a bit less predictable. So my clutch is that it should have been real.
I'll start. Negative Nelly today. It's a kick from me. I don't know if I said this on the last episode or if this was just in normal office talk, but I actually like the idea of Broken Blade switching to a different role. I think he's a very flexible player, and we've similar in line to Caps and Perks, we've seen someone like Blippo, when he was on Fnatic, go from playing top lane, switch to jungle for a full split, 2 splits, I can't remember exactly, but have a lot of success. I just don't have faith in Scumon's ability to play top. Maybe he could make a Dr. Mundo work up there, but it's a different beast. I don't know if you've never laned professionally. I think going from playing in the jungle to laning against some of the people, like even in the LEC, would be just way, way too difficult. And it probably would mean that Scumon would eventually just not be on the team. So we want these 5 to stay together. They need to stay in their specific homes.
I'm going to clutch this concept. I think it's a really cool concept to have. Like you said, it makes your team very, very unpredictable. I think in a future, if like this is a thing that you could normalize and people actually train in the week to like do this, where they can swap from going to top to jungle, I think it could be actually really, really useful for a lot of teams to be able to, like you said, be unpredictable. It's like, okay, I prepped all week for Broken Blade to be a top laner, and then you show up and he's picking a jungler and he's actually performing really, really good on the jungle. So I think it's actually a really cool concept. I'm going to clutch it because this scenario, I'm with you. I don't think Scumon would be successful at all in the top lane. Broken Blade is obviously a veteran, and I think he could be successful in the jungle. You know, I think if you're a laner going to the jungle, it becomes way easier than being a jungler going into a lane.
I'll go ahead and clutch it as well. I just want to see Broken Blade in the jungle. That's all it was. You know, I got fooled by the tweet also because I forgot how late they were starting for LEC. I thought they were starting the same week as LTA. They're actually starting. They're only going into week 2. This is going to be their second week, so it will be the first week that Koi and G2 actually get some of their games in. So I didn't realize how late they were, so I did get fooled by it. And I was kind of hoping because I really want to see Broken Blade. Maybe that was mostly my copium wanting to see Broken Blade in the jungle. As you said, though, Scumon would have a little trouble on top. It kind of would have been, in my opinion, a little similar to Yaios when Lyon had their week 1 sub and just putting him on something like maybe Gragas or the Mundo, but I assume that probably would have just been instant banned.
I mean,
out.
but for the concept of this, though, like you guys, like Davis, you said you like the concept. Is this not just like objectively a worse concept than having a 6th man? Like you get some flexibility, but now you're splitting time and you're having to learn Fearless draft for 2 roles. Like maybe pre-Fearless, I could even see it, but it just seems like worse than
concept
a 6-man
I don't
roster.
like. Broken Blade in the jungle I like. If they had just like taken a whole different top laner.
Well, imagine a world where after the draft you could pick who is where, because then players could learn a whole different champion pool for top lane specifically that's different from their current top laner, and then the way they draft the teams or the champions could benefit them if they want to swap things last minute or swap which players is where. I think it'd be cool, but it also, you'd have to figure out the rule set for that, right? Like
instead of like the picture swapping when they do the champion select,
it's the names.
The players are getting up and
Moving
swapping, but then
desks.
trying to swap champions as well. So
I do. There is randomly now that's been popped in my head the idea of like a force format where you're forced to switch roles.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you get 2 wins and then you have to make a switch.
he's one-upping Elsa's Iron Man. For
Yes, exactly. Where you go fearless, but you can only play. You can't play the same role each game.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, players are just starting to get pushed out.
Yeah, I also just like when players swap roles, like Reckless going from like a baller ADC to now being a support. He's like, yeah, I know what an ADC wants, so I'm going to be a better support. I don't know. I think it's a cool concept.
All right. Well,
I just think it takes a super special player to be able to actually
do both.
execute this. Yeah.
Scumon
I think
is not that
in an
good.
ideal world, yeah, exactly. Scumon, I have no hope for that at all. In an ideal world, if they were training for it, I think it would be sick, but it's just, I think it's too hard right now.
It is.
All right. Well, that fun aside, as we talked a little bit about earlier, we had some fantasy drafts put up into play for LTA North. If you don't know what's going on, LTAfantasy.com, you can go and pretty much pick your team from both the LTA North and LTA South players to make your dream fantasy team for the week, and you can switch them out weekly as you go on. We have made a group for the GGN channel here where we've all decided to play. I decided not to play for week 1 because I got dizzy, and that is my fault. But the rest of the guys have been on,
worst host.
on it. Yes, worst host ever.
It's good for us because he would probably be winning if he played.
On that note, though, we have our picks for this week. We'll start off with Davis. Let us know who you picked.
Yeah, so for my team, I got Castle in the top lane, Blabber jungle, Tuts going in the mid lane, Rael in the ADC, and Seos in the support role.
All right, we'll go ahead and go to mine for the second one. My picks, I started with Fudge in the top lane, Griffin in the jungle, Loki in mid lane, Tomo in, yes, of course, Tomo ADC, and then Pro Delta in support.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do mine real quick. And I actually wanted to explain some of my picks here. I also have Fudge in the top lane, Shopify going up against 100T.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little bit.
Okay, we'll explain it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the biggest Inspired stan in the room, so of course I had to go Inspired. He took up 40% of my budget. And then I've got Jewel in the mid lane and the bot lane for Dignitas.
Interesting, the Dignitas bot lane. We'll get to talk about that a bit. Mine is next, the Dog Pound here from J-Dog. We got Guigo. Okay. I feel like I heard it a million times at MSI, but it still doesn't stick. Shaden in the jungle, Quad, mid lane, FBI bot, and Toplop. Toplop? That one I've never heard said before, regardless, but the Leviathan support was my final one.
Thank you.
All right, and here are the standings. Yes, with Davis is leading out in the pack. I am sitting.
You're not in last.
Oh yeah, not pure last, but CJ hasn't picked. So yes, I am in last. I did forget to do week number 1, but that's completely my fault. The Dog Pound is sitting in second, and the Ninja Dojo in third place. But Eli wanted to explain his, so let's go ahead and jump into his first, and he can explain his picks to us.
Yeah, if you want to pull mine back up. So basically, like I picked Fudge in the top lane because Shopify is going up against 100 Thieves, and Sniper has not been looking very good in the top lane. I was a big fan of Sniper before he competed, and I even picked him on my fantasy team in prior weeks, but he's been losing me a lot of points. So I'm picking the guy going against him to see if that helps my strategy.
Think he could handle Dokla?
I think he'll be fine.
Okay.
Then Inspired, for obvious reasons, I think he's the best player in the West, bar none.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and they're going up against Lyon, which is tough for them. Audieland in their jungle looked great in that series against Liquid, but Inspired's a whole nother beast. Loud is playing against Isurus Estral, which also lost me tons of points in fantasy last split, so I'm never picking an Isurus Estral player again. But Jewel was a nice budget pick to go against them. And then the bot lane for Dignitas, it's mostly because I couldn't afford anything else because Inspired was so expensive, but also the fact that they're going against Disguised Toast. So this budget pick, I mean, combined, they cost me like, I don't know, 13 budget points. And they're going up against, in my opinion, the worst team in the league. So that's like their best chance to earn some points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I might have had Jewel in my pick last week. I know I had Griffin in the jungle, and I'll let you know, Loud let me down. So I don't know how much you expect to get there, but maybe their matchup this week is better than their previous one. The bot lane is solid there. I think that's when you're talking about picking someone from a bottom team, it's totally possible that their bot lane could do totally fine and kind of hang in there and then just even still lose the game to Disguise, but still get you solid points. So that's solid.
I mean, have Disguise won any games yet? I don't.
Disguise has 1 map win and Dig has none.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's the
someone's about to get it.
Yeah,
that's why they're cheap. That's why they're cheap to buy. So yeah.
And I had the same. One of us is our scores are gonna be completely flipped because I have 2 guys from Disguised Toast and you have 2 from Dig. So we'll see what happens there. But I went with Castle and Rael from Disguised Toast. Literally for the same exact options. I was thinking I didn't have much money because I bought Blabber, which he was very expensive for me in the jungle. And so I was like, I got to figure out something. And I was like, look, they're playing Dig. Hopefully they can get the job done. I'm picking these 2.
Yeah, for me, I have the bomb lane and I have Tomo playing because he actually was pretty solid in their matchup. Pro Delta though, so they are he is on the bottom place team for South, but they've had to play against both Payne and Vivo Keystar, what are the number 1 and number 2 right now. So they were able to take 1 game off of Vivo Keystar, I believe. So I thinking that they may not actually be at the bottom. So maybe they can get a win in their column. If not, I did go for the variety buff. So if you don't know, if you choose 5 different players from 5 different teams, you get a variety buff. So you get, I believe it's 5% per player that's different on it.
You got 20%.
So yeah, so 20%. If it works out, that's an extra 20% from that variety buff that I'm hoping to make up some points here. So I'm shooting for the stars.
Yeah, I also went for the variety buff. I actually didn't even understand what it was at the time when I was picking it. I just saw that there was a little bar next to the thing, and I was like, I don't care what that is. However I can max it out, I'm going to. And it would I felt like I had to do because of that was I couldn't go with any like big boys. I needed to be able to get a solid player from 5 different teams, so I couldn't go for an Inspired or a Loki or a Thanatos, who I usually like having. But I think Quad's really solid. Maybe we'll pull something out in the top lane there for Furia. And,
he's been good. I had him for my first 2 weeks, and he's done really good for me.
And I'm a lot of money here on Shaden for me as well. Like he's the jungler for Dignitas, so if it does go your way, I will hopefully be benefiting as well. Maybe we'll see some Sejuani ganks running down into the bot lane and both the Ninja Dojo and the Dog Pound benefiting.
What's interesting about this is like all of us are kind of believing in Dignitas in some respect, and he's got the Disguise, and he's in the lead, right? So if Disguise Toast wins, he'll be way further in the lead, and if we win, then we'll catch up. So.
I have a little variety buff myself. It ain't maxed out though. I'm at 40%.
Yes.
Well, now we all know what the variety buff is and how it works. But make sure you all stay tuned with us in the coming weeks that we have the show. We'll continue to show how the teams do, how everyone's picks are for the weeks.
Did we miss any like big value picks? I think if there's anybody that you guys feel like that we missed out on, you can either drop it in the comments or send it to me privately, so these goobers don't get access to it. Actually, maybe send it to Chris because he'll need it.
Yeah, I need my points right now. I'm down bad. But enough with that. Right now, we talked about this a little bit before, but Faker has signed on for 4 more years. That is correct. He has signed on for 4 more years with T1, the only team he has been with since his inception into League of Legends professional play. What do you all think about this?
I think he's going to win 4 more World Championships.
Imagine.
Easy peasy. I think they definitely should have re-signed him. If the day that Faker retires is the day that League dies. So anything that we can do to keep him, if I need to crowdfund the T1 budget myself, let me know.
What sparked this to be interesting for me was I ended up looking up why Zeus left T1, and I just did a bunch of research on it. And it was mostly about contracts because originally Zeus was supposed to sign a 4-year contract, but his agency and himself, I think, disagreed with that. They were trying to negotiate the terms, potentially the amount that it was, and ultimately just couldn't come to an agreement. So now he's not on T1 anymore. And it kind of just made me wonder, what if he did sign that 4-year deal, and then it's like the 2 solo laners are solidified for T1, but it's just not the reality anymore. I think it's great for Faker. What I looked up online said that the amount was like 5.6 million per year. With the incentives, they could bring it up to like 7.1 million per year. So it's a pretty damn good contract.
Is that in WON or USD though?
That was in USD.
Yeah. I mean, also money-wise, it probably doesn't matter too much for Faker.
That's why I was asking.
He's made so much money. He's got so many investments. I'm pretty sure that he owns like some skyscrapers and stuff in Seoul. So
he also owns like 6% of T1,
the company itself,
which I think came from one of his prior contracts. So.
Yeah,
should have came to NA.
I mean, a billionaire. We need Jeff Bezos.
I actually don't think there's enough money that would make that happen. I don't think you could offer. Like, it's too integral to. I feel like he's made it.
He said it in an interview that he wouldn't. He's been offered contracts in NA, and he said no. I'd rather.
I mean, at this point, he's almost kind of paramount to Steph Curry at the Warriors, right? Where I believe he just kind of wants to stick to that one team if possible. Obviously, T1 don't want to lose him, but he's also really invested in the T1 himself. I mean, for me, the big thing about this was, as I talked about a little bit earlier, was the reveal for it because
it was amazing.
Yeah, our Dylan ended up showing us one of the video of actually like the fans taking it, and you actually see like the remaining members of T1 almost walking off the stage and almost like, past where everyone's at. Then it comes up, they turn around and they're almost in shock and everything.
So even they didn't know.
Yeah, and then I mean, I thought it was deafening at MSI when they were playing, but hearing those videos that they had just of everyone, plus the video itself, was just absolutely amazing
I
that
don't know
they did.
how, but Faker just looks like the hardest individual in the world. And in all these videos, like he has the craziest quotes too, like all roads lead to me. Like all those things, like that get me so hyped up when I watch these videos. So.
Yeah, well, 4 more years. We're lucky, as everyone said, we at least have 4 more years of League of Legends behind us. I know a lot of content creators were happy saying the same thing. It's an inside joke, but I mean, in all honesty, the numbers he has been putting up, we look at, you know, the top games from a lot of these international tournaments, as well as even coming back, Gen.G versus T1 on that homestand game for T1 almost broke just, you know, domestic records for like some of the highest viewed esports game of 2025 of all games. So they're putting up like 1.6 million concurrent viewers, or sorry, highest peak viewer, you know, on just a best of 3 split 3 game between Gen.G T1.
Yeah.
All for the fact that we're seeing, you know, Faker come out to play, and then of course HLE being the best team in the world right now. But without him, I still don't think that, you know, Gen.G are putting up those numbers without
We've
T1.
seen like the records for viewership get broken over and over for all of T1's matches. I mean, looking at MSI and EWC, we're on pace. If T1 make the grand finals at Worlds, like it's gonna break every record by a large margin, I think.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of solo carrying the viewership. Like it's turning into an Optic and COD almost level.
Yeah.
Thing. Some of the I mean you were at MSI, so you can probably speak to it, but the turnouts in-person events for when T1 is playing versus when T1 is not playing is just night and day. So
yeah.
Maybe, you know, while I say it's best and, you know, if Faker retires, the game dies, maybe there is an argument that Faker going to another org and kind of spreading that aura and following around that could be good for the game, but those two are just too tightly
They're synonymous.
Yes.
And I think it speaks a lot to him as a person too, really wanting to stay there and show them that he can give them everything the same way that they've gave him everything. So I think it's really cool for him to stay there.
Thanks.
You don't really see that a lot.
Moving a little bit away from the esports side, though, into the regular game itself, we finally have had our season 3 theme for League of Legends be announced, or at least rumored, and it is going to be darkened. For it, I guess it was data mined, so it probably just is leaked at this point. But we have a darkened theme coming, so we're going to be moving away from the Cherry Spirit Blossom that we've had. Yunara was released, but now we will have darkened as the next theme, which is really cool. If you don't know much about them, you know, bare minimum, they're basically living weapons that, you know, come out. Think of Aatrox, think of Nefiri, Kayn, Varus as some of the big hitters. Of course, we'll be getting a new Darkened themed champion as well coming out with this. What do you guys think about this new season theme?
I'm excited for it. I think that it's cool to go from like the happy to the dark. I don't know, just like some kind of contrast. It makes the game feel fresh. I wish, like, I'm a Halo guy. I wish they changed the maps in Halo, like at least the atmosphere more frequently. Where literally it's the same time of day that it's been since the game released. It's not that hard to update like the atmosphere of the game. So I love that League does this in general. And these are some of my favorite champions. Varus is one of my best champions in the bot lane as an ADC player. And I've just always thought that like Kayn and Aatrox were really cool characters. So I'm excited to see it.
I like this a lot. I think it's interesting. One, the darkened theme is just going to be pretty dope. I think there's a lot of really cool like artistic elements that they'll be able to use. It's also interesting having the theme for your entire map be around a region where we only have 4 champions in the game. Like there's not a lot of characters from this game. So maybe we'll get a lot of teasers to upcoming stuff. I know we don't know who that new Darkin character is, but there's a bunch of them both from Legends of Runeterra and from just the general lore stuff. Like I think one of Master Yi's pupils became a Darkin that we don't know yet. So there's a bunch of cool stuff that they could pull from. And it's always been kind of confusing to me why we haven't got those Runeterra Darkin characters as well.
I think what we know of right now, new champion is supposed to be rumored to be a melee bruiser-esque type.
So is that, I wonder if that's the ones in Runeterra, the weapon is a spear and a halberd. Those are the 2 Darkin characters in there. I think there's also a fan. There's a Darkin fan.
So we'll have to see. I mean, it's so can't remember since they've moved down to only 3 now what the exact rotation is. We just got ADC, and then Mel we had previously as mid lane, meaning we're leaving mostly open to a possibility of top lane, jungle, and or support. So we'll have to see kind of where
and it
that
could
mixes.
fit that archetype could fit
that
into
it could
either
almost
one of
fit, especially now that quote unquote, leaks for this next season, or maybe the patch before the next season, is that Nautilus might be getting some jungle buffs. So we might end up seeing him. So as we're talking about some swapping of different characters. But speaking of role though, what would you most prefer this new champion to be role-wise that you might want to see either competitively played or play yourself?
What do we got? Well, there's 4 Darkin.
There's not a
Nefiri.
support.
There's not a. I'm going support then because we got Nefiri in the jungle, Aatrox top. Do we have a mid laner too? No.
Oh no, yeah, there's no.
Varus.
mid lane.
I'll
Or
play AP
Nefiri.
Varus in
Nefiri.
mid lane.
Yeah.
I guess you do play Nefiri.
Nefiri can be mid.
But yeah, I'll go support. That also works. I'm a support.
At a time,
I'm a
Nefiri
support
wasn't.
main, so edgy, dope support character. That's right up my alley.
I don't know. I'm indifferent. I feel like I just got Yanara for my ADC role.
Eli's gonna play it in ARAM regardless.
Yeah, like these days I'm more of an ARAM player, so it is what it is. Whatever it is, I would like it to be like maybe an engage type champion that has like some big CC. I feel like we haven't seen a ton of that in recent releases.
And if it's Spear or Halberd, you probably want to keep it out of the jungle because we already have Xin Zhao as kind of being that.
Yeah, there's lots of spears. Pantheon in there too, man.
That's true.
Probably top lane.
Jarvan's got a spear too. What the heck?
I'm gonna predict it to be a top lane, whatever comes up.
Nice. And Baus is gonna play at AP.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I originally was gonna say support, but then I think of like the traditional Darkin, and it's like pretty high damage like character. I do not want like another Pike as a support, so please don't bring me another.
I love
damaging
Pike.
support.
Pike is so.
No.
Girl loves
no.
Pike too.
I have so many pentakills and ARAM on Pike. It's too easy, man. Yeah, literally just click.
Printing money.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Kind of hoping for more of a another theme of kind of where we saw Kane, where we have a duel on the channel. But I like that transformation for the Darkin type character. When you think about Varus does have 2 entities inside of him, but you only get to play as one person. Nefiri, of course, you get the pack that goes along with her in that. So I think it'd be cool. Aatrox, of course, is the world ender. He can only be one.
Kindred's supposed to be kind of that dynamic too, right? Kindred is like multiple spirits in one or something.
Yeah, she's similar to. Well, she's Fox and Lamb.
Wolf.
Fox and Wolf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wolf and Lamb.
Well, that's their names, but like they look like a fox and a wolf, I think.
Right.
Maybe.
I don't know.
That's a whole different that's in the Spirit Blossom realm. We're still sticking in.
I do wonder too if like any of the map changes tie into like the upcoming Arcane release. Is Arcane supposed to come out next year, I'm assuming?
Yes.
So like
And I think there is some connection between the I guess like spoiler alert for Arcane if you haven't watched it. If you're watching a League of Legends podcast on YouTube,
Arcane's
YouTube,
been out
and you
for a
haven't
couple
seen
years
Arcane,
now.
that's crazy.
Spoiler alert.
But
though.
like the stuff with LeBlanc that we've seen, like the Rose, I think it would make sense to me that there's some sort of crossover there between a Darkin.
Yeah.
None of the ones that we have in the game right now. It would have to be a new Darkin, I think.
We'll have to see. Of course, we're all excited for that. But that'll wrap it up for us today. We're enjoying being back after a little bit of a break. But let us know what you're most excited for, whether it be some games coming up or the new season of League of Legends having that Darkin theme, if that will be the correct one coming out. If not, we are completely sorry for all the misinformation. But thank you for joining us today. We will see you next time.